Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Tensions are rising again over Greenland after President Donald Trump renewed claims that the Arctic territory is vital to US national security. Greenlandic leaders and European governments are pushing back strongly, insisting that the island is not for sale and will not be annexed. To assess what's really driving Washington's rhetoric and how serious the risks are, we're joined by Iver B. Neumann, director of the Fridtjof Nansen Institute. Mr. Neumann, welcome to TVP World. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
OK, so before we kick off, there's a vox pop I'd like to share with you and the audience, and I'll get your view on it.
What?
There's a vox pop coming up.
If you got money from Trump, would you then consider becoming an American?
No, I would say no thanks. I don't need money.
Is there nothing at all that could convince you being a part of the US in some way?
If he is willing to give you like a check of 300,000 kroner.
No, he could never buy us. Ever in my life, I would...
500,000?
No.
A million?
Not...
You can say any number,
any number in the world, and we'll know. And we'll say no. It belongs to us and only us only.
Right, well, that's a fairly clear message from the people of Greenland. Does it surprise you?
Mm-hmm. No, not at all. The US has a number of possessions around the world. Guam, the Marshall Islands, American Samoa, possessions in the Caribbean, and these people aren't fully fledged citizens. Even Puerto Rico, which has more than 2 million people, they are not fully fledged American citizens. They don't have the vote like others do, so they wouldn't even be citizens of the US. They would simply be an appendix.
Right, now, this is raising, it sounds like a feeling, it sounds like it's raising a feeling of nationalism amongst Greenlanders. Do you think that this could then spread over to their relationship with Denmark?
On the contrary, they are 57,000 people, and they have, of course, fish to fry with the Danes. The Danes have been a settler colony in Greenland, and there are a number of reasons to be furious. There have been cases of sterilization of women fairly recently, for example, and these things are souring relations between Greenland and the rest of Denmark. But there is the devil you know, and then there is the devil you don't know, and in that case, that is the US. So I think that the whole situation with the US has actually dampened nationalist fervor in Greenland a bit.
All right. Well, you say that America's the devil they don't know, but I mean there has been an American presence on Greenland, a military presence for decades now. Surely they understand a little bit about the American modus operandi, don't they?
Very much so. When I said don't know, I didn't mean that literally. I meant in relation to Denmark, which has been around for centuries. But I think it's indicative the way the Americans got their American bases in 1950 to be established in 1951. The then Danish Prime Minister, H.C. Hansen, is on the record as having said that if Denmark didn't give the military base to the US would probably take it. So the interest the US has in Greenland is definitely not a new thing. Actually, it goes back to 1868, 1869, the years immediately after the US had bought Alaska, and they wanted to buy Greenland for the first time. And intermittently, they've been trying to do that ever since. So the American interest in Greenland as part of the Western Hemisphere is an old one.
Right. Now, the foundation of Trump's claim is that, we need it for national security. What do you make of that? I mean, they've already got the bases there, but now they're saying there are Russian ships and Chinese ships floating all around Greenland. Well, why don't they just put more bases on Greenland and, the Americans, I mean, and, protect it that way?
I think along the same lines. They used to have up to 7 bases. Now they have one big one. The assertion that there are a number of Russian and Chinese warships around simply doesn't hold up to scrutiny. That's not the case. But it is, of course, true that and this is a standard point in international relations. Having a territory to deny it to others is always a good idea. So they have an argument there. I think another reason for the interest is a perception that there are a number of rare earth metals in Greenland, and that is probably correct as well. The problem is that it would take a sustained effort over a long time to excavate these metals and to bring them to market. We're talking, according to metallurgists, we're talking something like 25, 30 years. And in that period of time, you can also alternatively create another kind of economics on rare earth metals. So that would be coming a little late to the ball. But a third reason, I think, for the American interest in Greenland that comes on top of strategy and economics is simply that Trump wants to appear tough. He wants to appear tough in the eyes of his MAGA constituency, but he's also an old man with a view to the history books. And he may think a lot about getting into those history books as the man who expanded the US along the lines of illustrious forebears from the 17 and 1800s.
Well, that's as may be, but I mean, Russia and China have made no secret of the fact that they see the Arctic as a strategic region, and that they have a view to take control of it. And looking at the other side of this coin, if Greenland had influence from either of those two countries or both, then they would be a real threat not only to Denmark and other Baltic states, but other Scandinavian countries, but also to the US. I mean, there is that argument to be made, is there not?
There is, definitely there is. And there was quite a hefty interest, Chinese interests in excavating minerals on Greenland 15 years ago. But it came to naught. The results were always negative. And all the talk about Chinese expanded influence in Greenland simply petered out. It doesn't happen. So again, we're talking a definite potentiality. You're absolutely right that in a dog-eat-dog world, and particularly in a world where great powers amass to take territory, which is a theme that Poland is eminently placed to understand after its three partitions in the late 1700s, great powers work together. And this is where we are now. And then it's very important, I think, for everybody, particularly for middle powers and also small powers like Poland and Norway, that we stand up against this kind of great power, annihilation, actually.
Right, okay. Well, let's zoom out a little bit now, Mr. Neumann, and look at Trump's overall plan as you see it. Just a few days ago, he kidnapped the president of Venezuela and his wife, who are now standing trial in the United States on narcotics charges. But that government has been, the role hasn't been left vacant for very long. The vice president has stepped in, and there seems to be, at the moment, certainly some kind of stability. Now, Trump has also said Cuba is next. What do you see? How do you see the Greenland issue and the South American issue fitting together in this jigsaw puzzle?
Donald Trump has been very direct there. He's been talking about the Donroe doctrine, referring back to President Monroe, who more than 200 years ago laid down the law that the Western Hemisphere was the US's sphere of interests, and European powers, and there was no need to spell that out in those days, but all other powers as well, should keep their hands off. And Donald Trump has repeated that and made it his own slogan. Only 4 years ago, the State Department published a huge picture of Trump with the caption, "This is our hemisphere." So the entire idea of consolidating the Western Hemisphere as an American sphere of influence is important. And this is extremely bad news for Ukraine and all other European countries because it brings us back to the idea of spheres of influence, and it opens the gate for a legitimation of Russia's idea of the near abroad, the idea that Russia can do what it wants in its former possessions in the Soviet Union. And it opens the door for China to consolidate its East Asia as its platform, as it were, as its home country, just like the US thinks about America as its home base, as it were. And in such a perspective, it makes very good sense that Venezuela should be subdued, Cuba, of course, and also Greenland. So this wider context is very important to understand what's happening in Greenland, I think.
Yes, I mean, although I would suggest that neither China nor Russia need any justification for their expansion. I mean, they've been doing it for decades anyway. This is just another arrow in their quiver. But
I would agree with that. But when it comes to the rhetoric, it becomes much easier for these countries to make a case for the legitimacy of acting like that when there is no counterweight. And the US has for 80 years been trying to, okay, they have been sort of also been thinking along sphere of influence lines, but on the level of rhetoric, they have been trying to delegitimate the idea of spheres of influence, and they don't do that anymore. So I definitely agree with you that neither Russia nor China needs any propelling forward to try and rule their near abroads, as it were. But on a rhetorical level, on a level of legitimacy, I think what the US is doing here is opening the gate much wider for them, and that is not in Europe's interest.
Well, perhaps not. Unfortunately, Mr. Neumann, we're going to have to end it there, but do come and see us again soon. There's so much more I'd like your view on. Thank you very much for taking the time, and have a good evening.
And you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. And that brings us to the end of this episode of World Talks. Don't go away, lots more coming up. Goodbye.